we have more important, more exciting things to talk about. And that is because we are joined today by a very special guest. Jill Gearin from the Visalia Rawhide is joining us. Jill, thank you for being here with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I mean, we are big fans, and of course, we have really enjoyed keeping up to date with the Diamondbacks minor league system because it's been very, very exciting. But I know this might be a cheesy question. I know this might be something that everybody kind of in baseball gets because I know we all have our moment when we kind of fell in love with baseball. But can you pinpoint your moment as to when you wanted to do this as a career, when you wanted to be a part of baseball and broadcast like you do?
Baseball has always been a huge part of my life. I played softball growing up, played softball through college. But in terms of wanting to broadcast, I was 12 years old, interested in sports, talking with the middle school boys about sports. And they told me, girls don't know about sports. You're not supposed to like that. I went home, complained to my mom, and she said, Jill, you don't shut up and you like sports, go into broadcasting. And here we are.
I love that. I love that.
Not shutting up is a big.
Not shutting up. Yeah, not shutting up is a big key there. We love that.
Big part of it.
Speaking of, I want to ask you, Jill, about the pitch clock and how obviously that's now made its way up to the major leagues. But I know I've talked to a number of people who do what you do, who call play-by-play for baseball games, and it seems like the pitch clock has very much changed the game. You don't have nearly as much time, between pitches to tell stories and whatnot. Maybe in some ways that's helpful. You don't have quite as much space to fill. You can kind of just talk about the game. But what has it been like just navigating this new age of baseball that we're in right now?
It's funny that you mentioned that because in 2019, we didn't have the pitch clock. And the one thing I really wanted to focus on in my next season was bringing in stories, having time to talk about these guys. Well, the pitch clock has kind of prevented that, like you said. So it does make it difficult because I know these guys on a very personal level. I want to tell their stories, but I'm just not able to all the time. So I've definitely found myself telling a story and then all of a sudden 3 interesting plays happen really quick and I have to go back. So remember when I was telling you about Christian Robinson? Okay, let's go back to
Yeah.
that. So it's been a little bit awkward, but I think it's actually allowed me to show my personality more and say, okay, I know this is awkward, but we're going to go back to finish this.
Yeah. And I think people like that. I think people understand, and they kind of like when broadcasters aren't perfect, but they're human, And I think that's something that is very appealing when I listen to games. I mean, we know it's a hard job, and we know you guys don't have all that time to tell the stories, but we do appreciate when you kind of fill us in on things we don't know about these guys.
Right.
Yeah, one thing I was curious about is you mentioned that you played softball in college. What was kind of that like transition from having? I mean, you mentioned you were always into baseball, but from playing softball to then calling, obviously a similar sport, but a very different sport in a lot of ways, baseball. Was there any like difficulty in that transition, or did that come like just really naturally to you?
It felt natural. I think the big part was that I needed to feel like I was a part of a team. I've been a part of a team since I was 6 years old, and in college, you become a family. So all of a sudden, having that stripped that away from me as an athlete was really difficult mentally. And then walking into Visalia 2019, these guys kind of took me under their wing like their little sister because I was only 22 at the time. So I think it was pretty easy, but I actually felt like having my playing experience gained me more respect from these guys because they said, okay, she gets it. She gets the mental difficulties of the sport. I don't know the professional difficulties, but I get that this sport is very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know you have had a chance to call a couple of Diamondbacks games. We know last year you had the D-backs broadcast game, and then this year you got a chance to do some of the spring training games. What was that opportunity like, and was that something that felt very natural, obviously, with you doing this for the Rawhide?
It's funny, I was more nervous for the spring training game than I was for the Dodger game because that one was just 3 innings. Okay, you can get through 3 innings and be decent.
Yeah.
The spring training was, oh God, I have to do this for 9 innings and I have to do it with an analyst that I'm not used to having an analyst. So I was more nervous for that. And also spring training, there's so many different stories to try to talk about and there's not
Yeah.
as much stats and it doesn't matter as much or whatever. So I was more concerned about that. But the Dodger Stadium experience was actually I don't want to say easy, but it felt comfortable,
Okay.
especially because that first pitch was a home run hit by Dalton Varsho. And it kind of kicked me back into reality saying, all right, it's baseball. You know how to do
Yeah.
this. You've done it a million times.
What did you think after the spring training game, though? Did you kind of feel like the nerves, did you feel comfortable after the game was over, or what were your thoughts on how you did for that game?
I think I did okay. To be honest with you, I was sick that day. Like my
Uh,
Oh
allergies were
no.
acting
that
up. I was
sucks.
going to the bathroom and like coughing up a lung, and I just wanted the game to be over. Um, but I felt good. You know, I do love the Diamondbacks organization. I've been a part of it for a long time now,
Yeah.
and it's been fun to see the guys that I've broadcasted 4 years ago now in the majors or in Reno.
Jill, I want to ask you about a player that Diamondbacks fans are especially interested in right now, Christian Robinson making his return to minor league baseball after almost 4 years. You're one of few people who have gotten to see him play in person. What have you seen from him, both on the field and maybe off the field, with just kind of what it's been like for him getting back into the sport he loves?
He's awesome. I remember the first time I met him was in Lake Elsinore, so about 8 days ago now. And I introduced myself, said, you're probably going to have some interview requests. Just let me know if you need anything. And he just has this huge smile on his face where you can just tell he's excited to be back because, baseball was taken away from him for a
Yeah.
little while. And that's really difficult when it's not only your job, but the only thing you've put that much effort into your whole life. So being able to see him be happy and excited, and the fact that he wants to talk about mental health, and I think he's really going to come into his own. Again, he's only 22 years old. He has so
Yeah.
much more to learn on the baseball side and about himself.
And we've talked about him quite a bit on this show. And the one thing that we've talked about is just the Diamondbacks sticking by him throughout this. And, this could have been a career ending situation for a lot of players. And we're just very thankful that he was able to work his way through it. And honestly, like when you look at what he's gone through, it's kind of the way that people have been understanding of what he went through and are willing to try to help him get back on track. But he just seems so grateful and thankful that he gets to play this sport that he loves. And like that part, it's just such a wonderful story for someone that has gone through something that's as difficult as that, and to make it out on the other side and to be back with the organization. But because of how long it's taken, it's hard to remember sometimes that he's only 22 years old and that he still has a very bright future ahead of him.
Definitely. I think it seems like he hasn't missed a beat at all. He struck out a few times yesterday, but he's hitting the ball well. For me, I think he seems really comfortable at the plate. I actually want to see him get a little bit better at reading the ball in the outfield. I feel like he's still a little bit delayed on that first
Yeah.
quick step. But again, he hasn't seen a ball off a bat other than maybe BP in
Right.
3.
Right.
Another guy that D-backs fans are quite excited about, Drew Jones. What did you see from him in like his first taste of pro ball? And then I guess on the other hand of that, like what can you kind of tell us about his injury?
Right. I do know that he's been playing in the ACL, but he's not running just yet. He posted some videos of him like fake jogging where he probably could have legged a triple out, but he ended up being on first base. But he's the real deal in terms of his defense is like he could be the starting center fielder for the Diamondbacks right now. That's how good his defense is. His arm is great. He's fast. He has good read on the ball. His hitting is going to be what takes a little while to just get more comfortable, become more consistent. But again, he was in high school in Georgia. I don't know how fast they throw, but it's not as fast as what you see here in Visalia.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a little while for
Yeah.
that to come together.
Is there anybody that like Diamondbacks fans don't really know? Is there a name that isn't, like the Drew Jones and some of the bigger names as far as prospects in the system that we should be aware of? Is there anyone that like kind of has impressed you in Visalia?
It's such a tough question because these guys are so young. It's
Yeah.
more about I can see that they're really good at this, but they haven't figured out the mental aspect of the game. I think one guy, he is the top prospect, so people kind of know about him, is
Yeah.
Manuel Pena. He
Oh yeah.
is very smart. He's only 19 years old and he understands his role as a player. And I'm excited to see his maturity continue and translate to his actual play, not just his mental game. Another guy is Anderson Rojas. He's been our left fielder recently, and he also can play middle infield, but he's only been in the outfield. And he's also only 19. He knows his job. He knows he's fast, and he knows he's not going to hit a lot of home runs. He always has at least one bunt attempt every single game. He just has a good head on his shoulders, and he's really athletic. You could throw him anywhere, he'll be fine.
Last thing for me, Jill. I don't believe he's not with the Rawhide at this point, but I know you got to see Yu-Min Lin get his first taste of pro ball last season, and I haven't gotten a chance to see him pitch in person like you have. But from what I've heard, he has like 26 pitches and can throw them all for strikes. And people are kind of dreaming on the pitcher that he could become someday for this organization. What did you see from him last year? And what are the things that Diamondbacks fans should be aware of when it comes to him?
Right. I think I only saw him maybe 5 or 6 starts. He came kind of late in the season,
Yeah.
but I remember he had a lot of strikeouts one game. Like you said, he has so many different types of pitches where, okay, let's say he has a curveball, but he has like 3 different types of curveballs. He can control it so well where he knows how to make it have different spin, whether it's going on the inside part of the plate, the outside part of the plate, very outside. It's because of his able to locate, he has that many pitches. And I don't really know what else he needs to improve on except just continue to keep pitching. I don't know what exactly he needs to work on. He looks great to me.
You got anything else?
No,
All right. Well, Jill, we thank you so much for your time, and we are very excited to see not only you guys continue to put on a wonderful show there in Rawhide, but some of these youngsters make their way up through the minor league system. I feel like that's got to be kind of the most fulfilling part for you, is to see these guys at the level you see them, and to see them go on to reach the success that some of them have.
Absolutely. It's funny. People say, your dream is to call a Major League Baseball game, right? And I said, yeah, of course. I have things on my bucket list. One thing on my bucket list is actually to call a game where one of the players that I know from minor league baseball makes their MLB debut. I think that would just be a cherry on top for my career.
Yeah, that's incredible, and it's just something that's so unique in baseball that you don't really get elsewhere when it comes to like those young players eventually getting to that point where they make that major league debut. So, but we thank you so much. We've really enjoyed listening to you, and we wish you the best down there in Visalia.
Thanks, guys.